Welcome to our latest video on the history of North Africa and the Mediterranean. We have started a playlist. I'll put this link in the description below if you'd like to catch up with some of these videos if you've just come across this one. We've been speaking about the Berbers, and this could be a depiction of a Berber man. But that's not going to be the full story for the Berbers, because we are learning that there are different elements to the Berbers, so this could just be one element. And in this video we did say we're going to look at Canaan, son of Ham. So let's introduce the video. This is going to be a very interesting video if you haven't come across this information before. So it says, the Berbers are the children of Canaan, son of Ham, son of Noah. Their ancestors were called Mazai. The Philistines were their parents. So this is coming from a 14th century famous geographer. Not going to pronounce this name in case I get it wrong, but this is saying the Berbers are Hamites and a mix of Canaanites and Philistines, and we have introduced the Philistines in this playlist already. And Mazai, that could be where that word Amazai is coming from, how the Berbers refer to themselves. Now the source we're going to be using is Procopius of Caesarea, and it's called the Girgashite Diaspora. So I've been looking forward to going through this with you. I think you're going to find it very, quite amazing really if you're new to this. So let's introduce this source. It's definitely going to be worth going through it together. So it says, Procopius of Caesarea reports the existence of an inscription in Numidia, allegedly written by the refugees from Canaan's conquest by Joshua. So this is Joshua of the Bible. And it says, while this claim cannot be taken at face value, it raises interesting questions as to its provenance and purpose. So we can see that the scholar is doubting this source, and we'll speak more about that as we go. In the fourth book of his wars, the historian Procopius of Caesarea tells a tantalizing story about a strange inscription. So interesting how it says tantalizing. And for people that enjoy studying history and the Bible, it is you could say tantalizing. So let's keep going. And I think I would like to read the whole testimony out to you, because it builds up to the main inscription. And it also says here about Procopius presents a dilemma to historians. How do you deal with these kind of sources? And I'll also want to make that point just now as well. Let's get to the testimony. When the Hebrews had withdrawn from Egypt and had come near the boundaries of Palestine, Moses, a wise man, who was the leader on the journey, died, and the leadership was passed on to Joshua, the son of Nun, who led this people into Palestine, and by displaying a valor in war greater than that natural to a man, gained possession of the land. And after overthrowing all the nations, he easily won the cities, and he seemed to be altogether invincible. Now at that time the whole country along the sea from Sidon as far as the boundaries of Egypt was called Phoenicia, and one king in ancient times held sway over it, as is agreed by all who have written the earliest accounts of the Phoenicians. In that country there dwelt the Girgashites and the Jebusites, and some others with other names by which they are called in the history of the Hebrews. So speaking about the Girgashites and the Jebusites, we just go to Genesis 10. This is the table of nations, the descendants of 3 sons of Noah. And we're looking at the Hamites because Canaan is from Ham. And it tells us the sons of Canaan. And we can see the Girgashites and the Jebusites, they descend from Canaan. We're also going to mention Sidon, Canaan's firstborn, in this video as well. Okay, let's keep going. Now when these nations saw that the invading general was an irresistible prodigy, they immigrated from their ancestral homes and made their way to Egypt, which adjoined their country. and finding there no place sufficient for them to dwell in, since there has been a great population in Egypt from ancient times, they proceeded to Libya. So, the region that we've been focusing on. And they established numerous cities and took possession of the whole of Libya, as far as the Pillars of Heracles. And there they have lived even up to my time using the Phoenician tongue. They also built a fortress in Numidia, where now is the city called Tigasis. In that place are 2 columns made of white stone, near by the great spring, having Phoenician letters cut in them, which say in the Phoenician tongue, "We are the refugees from the face of Joshua, the robber, son of Nun." So very amazing that we have this evidence. Now this is what I'd like to clarify. Okay, so we don't have the material evidence, these white stones. What we have is a testimony of a historian, speaking about them. So that's what this author is saying, and creates a difficulty for historians to judge this. And I know it might be obvious, but I want to make this point as well. All this that we read, that's the testimony of Procopius, and it's only this small part here, which is actually the inscription that would have been on these white stones. Now, I actually forgot to mention this in our other video. I just want to say it now. These example of these inscriptions for the Philistines in North Africa, that we don't have those either. It's the same situation where we're relying on people's accounts of them, and I forgot to mention that in that video. But even though it's a testimony, and you haven't got the physical evidence, it doesn't mean that you can just ignore or write off the testimony. You have to judge it on honest merit and judge it as well. But yeah, I think it's quite amazing that we have this this testimony, because telling us of the stories of the Bible, giving proof or saying there was physical proof for these stories of Joshua and the conquest of Canaan. But notice how they refer to him as a robber. So it's interesting how they their take on the events, seeing the Israelites, that they've robbed them. So that's quite interesting. And I just want to read you the author's take on this. Okay, it says, "The claim made by the reported inscription is radical and extreme." So it's interesting the choice of words used here. And then remember we said at the start that the scholar is showing doubt, and now we can see these using these words is showing that that it's going to struggle with this source. But let's keep going, because there's very important information that comes out from this. And I think you're really going to find this interesting. But it's also, like we said many other times as well, it could be very important. So if we go to the map to get an idea of where we're looking, so it mentioned a place called Tigasis. Let's see what that was. So Tigasis in Numidia, and you can see it highlighted here. And then if we go to the bigger map so we can look. So it's in this region of Tunisia, Algeria, and they call this region Numidia. We haven't spoken about the Numidians yet. So what do you think about this this source? It's very amazing that we have this story of the Canaanites fleeing to this region from Joshua, son of Nun. And how does that fit with the information that we've been looking at and this picture we've been working on? But the important thing is that it's not just Procopius that has spoken about this. If it was just one person, then you would have to question it and criticize it. But there are other references to the story of the Canaanites in North Africa. So that makes it more plausible or credible. So let's look at them, because some very interesting information comes out. So give me a chance to try to find it, because it's quite a long PDF, and it's going to be quite important for our study to try you know, pick out all the things that we need from this. Okay, so this other account speaks about the Canaanites sailing for Tarshish. So that's quite interesting that they were heading for Tarshish, and we have spoken about that there is that connection with southern Spain and the semi-mythological kingdom of Tartessos. So were they sailing for southern Spain? And that would make sense with this connection with North Africa. That's interesting. But there was a few other ones that I wanted to look at. This one is interesting, where it speaks about they went to the land of the Afroi, and this word is connected with Africa. So they went to the land of Africa. Now it's important that we try to understand this word. We have spoken about it quite a bit. I'll make the point in this video as well, because there's new people joining, and not everyone might be aware of this. So welcome to all the new subscribers that have joined. Okay, so this word Africa, when you go back into the historical record, was a designated area in North Africa, predominantly Tunis and Tunisia. So when it says that the Canaanites fled to Africa, it's speaking about this region. And then when the Canaanites settled here, they would have referred to themselves as Africans, but it's not being applied to the whole continent like we use that word today. So we have to be careful how we use it. And there's obviously different theories about where does this word Africa come from. We have done a video on the channel looking at one of those options, a very credible option, and I'll put a link in the description below for that if you'd like to try learn about where does this word Africa come from. Okay, let's keep going. It's a very interesting one that I still want to show you. Okay, it's this one. Now I can't pronounce some of these words, but just so we get an idea, it's speaking about 3 islands, and these islands are called the Balearic Islands. And let me show you on a map. So it's these islands here to the east of the Iberian Peninsula that we're speaking about. Now notice one of these islands here, it says Ebuso. Ebuso. And they bringing this up in this PDF because it seems similar to the name Jebus for the Jebusites. So is this evidence to show the Jebusites coming into this region and influencing this place, Ebuso? And if I show you the way we pronounce it today, then maybe you'll know where we're speaking. So Ibiza. So the island of Ibiza, when you see this variation, Ebuso, is that coming from Jebus, the Jebusites? And does that lend support to the story of the Jebusites coming into North Africa because of Joshua, son of Nun? And then it also speaks about, for it was the Canaanites themselves who founded Sidon. And we have a city in southern Spain called Medina Sidonia. So the city of Sidon. And this one, in southern Spain. So, showing evidence of the Canaanites coming into this region, and the Sidonians. But again, it's going to be now important to try and ascertain, when was this actually happening. So we're also going to speak about that. And then this last one is probably the really important one. It says, but the Jebusites founded Cadiz, or Cadiz. And we did speak about this settlement in the video, if you remember the video where we looked at the history of the world every year. And we were looking at this region here saying, has it been neglected by scholars or ignored or misunderstood? And the first thing that was added for this region was the Phoenician settlement of Cadiz or Gadir. So that's what we're speaking about. I'll just show you an image. So this is a picture showing that there's still some evidence of this civilization. And I wanted to show you the date. So we've been told that it may have been established around 1100 BC. And this is going to be important for our understanding of the history of the Phoenicians or the Canaanites. So, we've been told that the Phoenicians are exploring and settling in the Western Mediterranean around this time, 1100 BC. But if we think about this source with the Girgashite diaspora, now also the Jebusites we're learning about, if this is true, this inscription, then that would mean the Canaanites were coming into this region a lot earlier, centuries earlier. Because if we think about the time of the Exodus for the Israelites, it's going to be centuries before this this date. We could estimate maybe we could say around 300 years before. So that impacts what we've been told about the Phoenicians and the Canaanites. So maybe we can start to see now why the scholar reacts the way, the way that he has with this source, saying, that it's, let me just find that again because I want to make sure I get the right words, because I want to refer to this at the end. So to choose the words radical and extreme. Why choose those words? Because this information causes problems for the the official narrative. But let's just bring out a few more things. Another interesting thing that this page speaks about is the Girgashites. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it, to show you visually. So I'll put this link in the description below for you to have a look at it. So it's definitely, a source that's worth, reading for yourself so that you can, take it all in. But, it speaks about the Girgashites and the fact that, so I think I found it here. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to find it, pause it and read it. But we have these traditions that say that Joshua sent out 3 commands. Those who want to evict shall evict. Those who want to make peace shall make peace. And those who want to make war shall make war. The Girgashite evicted and believed in the blessed one, be he, and went off to Africa, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, that is Africa. So, okay, so this is not in the Bible, so we have to be careful, but it is interesting that the Girgashites were one of the nations that were, marked to be destroyed, but then in the time of Joshua and the campaigns, the Girgashites are not mentioned. So did the Girgashites flee, before the face of Joshua? So maybe before the conflict, fleeing and not having to fight. And then, does it make sense, this diaspora coming to North Africa? So what do you think about this information? I think it's very, it's amazing when you come across this, when you think about all we've been researching. But again, the dilemma is going to be, where are the Canaanites fleeing from? That's going to be the important part. So hopefully the more we investigate and research with this region, maybe it will become more clear where the Canaanites were fleeing from. But I just want to end thinking about the choice of words, radical and extreme. How the scholar is reacting to this information. Why react in that way? If we work with the premise that this inscription really was here, and that this, it's happening the way the, Procopius, his testimony is true, then what we're dealing with is a true testimony, and that's all. But why react in this way? So is that because we've come so far away from the truth? If you think about, the history and what we're taught, that when we hear something like this, we're so far away from it that it just seems like it must be, radical or extreme. It's too hard to process. because you're not expecting to see something like this. So is that why you react that way? So let me know what you think about that, and then also how it influences the timelines and the history, because it changes now the perception on the Phoenicians and the Canaanites, because they're only supposed to come into this region around the earliest 1100 BC, but now they could be here even as early as the time of the Exodus and Joshua. So very important information. I really was looking forward to going through this with you and to see what you think about this. I think that's all for this video, and what we'll do is I would like to make a few more videos speaking about the Canaanites and the Phoenicians, focusing on the Canaanites and the Phoenicians, and I think it could be maybe 2 or 3 videos, we'll have to see. But thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.